Welcome, everyone. My name is Deborah Gallant, and you have joined a program from Entrepreneurs Forever called Using Social Media to Drive Business Without Driving You Crazy. It's a good title. Hopefully you will be very engaged, have lots of questions, things that you'll want to talk about. We are recording today's session, and we are also simulcasting it on Facebook. I'm Deborah Gallant. I'm the Senior Program Manager of Entrepreneurs Forever, and my co-host today. Want to introduce yourself, Andrea?
I'm Andrea Fitting. I am a Senior Facilitator with Entrepreneurs Forever, and my field in the past was branding and marketing.
Andrea raised her hand right away and said, let me co-host. I want to talk about this. So I'm really delighted. Here's what we're going to try to do in our hour. We're going to talk just for a few minutes about Entrepreneurs Forever. As I mentioned, the 4 panelists today are all members of our different groups in Massachusetts and Pennsylvania. Andrea and I both facilitate groups, but some people may have joined us and not know what our program is. So we're just going to talk about it for a few minutes. I'm going to make sure I promote our upcoming programs and learning opportunities before we go into the program, because there's never time at the end. People are just so engaged in the topic. So I'm going to do that up front. We're going to introduce the panelists, and they're going to each give us some opening remarks. And then we have given them a few questions to be ready for, but we hope that questions come from you either on Facebook or through the Zoom interface. And we really want this to be an interactive conversation. We did run one of these programs before in Good Company about hiring, and it was phenomenal. So I'm hoping we have a lot of interaction today as well. Just to set the stage, Entrepreneurs Forever is a nonprofit 501c that supports small business owners. And we do that primarily through monthly peer groups where the members come together, learn, and grow. I love this line. This is from our newest hire, Jeannie. She says, because business ownership doesn't come with an instruction manual or a support hotline. So we support each other, and all of our programs are free to the business owner. Our peer groups are 1 meeting per month, generally on Zoom. Occasionally we get together in person with about 10 to 12 business owner peers, a professional facilitator. There's some structure and some unstructured time. Lots of accountability, and we bring in learning elements. This is not a networking group or a casual drop-in group or a leads program, and it's not classroom teaching. If you have experience with E4All, which is our sister program, that's an accelerator where we teach you stuff every time. That is not what our program's about, though there are learning elements. It's a terrific program. We have over 300 members in 38 different groups. And I just like to put up this statement because it's an amazing organization. I've been here about 9 months. I'm not going to read you our mission statement, but this is truly how we run it, and we truly believe in you. And this program, In Good Company, is one of the programs that has come out of that. If you are not already a member and you'd like to learn more, by scanning this QR code on your phone, it'll bring you to our sign up page. You can apply, you can set up an appointment to talk to somebody more, however you want it to work, that will bring you to our front page. And just to promote the next 2 events that I'm running, there's one on cybersecurity. And yes, it matters even for your small business. If you're taking credit card numbers, you are at risk. There'll be a deep dive with another member, Kyle Knapp from Pittsburgh, who's going to help me run that one. And then if you're an early stage business and you're struggling with, should I set up QuickBooks? Should I not set up QuickBooks? There's a great Forever Forward on July 14th. So that's about Entrepreneurs Forever and our events. Hopefully I didn't take up too much of our time. We have 4 amazing panelists today. They've never met each other before. Some of them are in Pittsburgh, some of them are in Massachusetts. They were all nominated by the facilitators of their monthly peer groups as people who have made social media really work for their business. I'm just going to say their names, and then I'm going to stop sharing, and we're going to actually hear from each of them. Luciana Calvin, a photographer from the Lowell Lawrence area in Massachusetts. Shauna Solomon, a style expert from Pittsburgh. Charlie Nadler, stand-up comedian from here in the Berkshires. And Jillian Preston is a maker who creates beautiful objects from broken plates and has such a great story to tell. So I'm going to stop sharing. And we're going to give each of them about 3 to 5 minutes to sort of just tell us their story, who they are, what their business is, how they're using social media. And then Andrea's going to take it from there. And she's going to lead the Q&A. So Jillian, you're first up on my screen. Talk to us a little bit about Broken Plates.
Yes, so my business, it's a line of contemporary jewelry that combines traditional blown glass techniques with modern CNC technologies. So while my name does suggest that I make jewelry out of broken plates, I actually blow glass plates and then chop them up to turn them into jewelry. I've since then started to get a little bit more sculptural using sheet glass of all sorts and using a water jet to cut out individual shapes to create more sculptural wearable pieces. So this piece in particular is what I can accredit my growth that's happened recently. I would say I opened in 2013, and it wasn't until this past holiday season that my following grew from like 3,000 on Instagram to now 80,000, and it happened very quickly. As the new season comes up, I don't know if I can repeat it, but I'm constantly working on my strategy for releasing videos, content creation, trying to like capture as many eyeballs as I can during a season when people are shopping.
Are you selling right off of the social media?
No, I have a link tree that takes you to my website. So I have too many. I used to sell through the products on Instagram, but at some point there was a malfunction working with Facebook. So I just opted to focus on creating content and linking back directly to my site. And having the link tree allows people to kind of direct their focus depending on what they're interested in. They can go to something they saw in a certain video, or go to my main page, or they can shop wholesale. So that's been really useful for me.
Fantastic. Thanks for that introduction, Jillian, and welcome. Shauna, would you like to go next?
Yes. Hi, everyone. I am Shauna Solomon, and I'm owner of Shauna Solomon and Associates. It's a brand development firm where we help retail businesses, small businesses, go from stuff to six figures. I got into that because I also have a boutique that I've had since 2005. I've probably made any and every mistake that you could possibly make. So now my goal is to help as many small businesses as possible as I can reach their level of success through entrepreneurship. For social media, for me, it has expanded my reach. I have been through the store. I have gotten jobs from OWN, Tyler Perry Studios. I have worked with celebrities. For the brand development firm, it has allowed me to be an expert in different fields and being able to talk about target audience and different things in different areas. So I absolutely love, I love TikTok. That's my safe space. I just transitioned over into Instagram with being more of a content creator and getting more brand deals. The majority of my brand deals have come from TikTok, but they like to see stuff over on Instagram. So I'm slowly doing that now. I would want to mention that I am a part of the Women Rock in Pittsburgh. And I will say that for those, if you are not, or if you're hesitant about joining eForever, I would absolutely tell you to do it. I've been with Women Rock since eForever started. And if it was not for eForever, I probably would have gave up a long time ago. So thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it.
Great. Thank you so much, Shauna. And I think when Andrea gets into the questions, maybe we'll want to tease out what you think some of those mistakes were, and also what was different about doing social media for the boutique and for the brand firm now, because those are probably sort of different philosophies.
Absolutely.
Thank you for that great introduction. And also the shout out to Women Rock, and of course, Toya, who's your facilitator.
Yes.
All right, Luciana Calvin, please introduce yourself and tell us about you and social media.
All right. Hi, everyone. My business name is Luciana Calvin Photography. My business is located in Chelmsford Center, right, on the center town. for who is not from this area, Chelmsford is right next door to Lowell. So I have been in business for a long time, not officially, but a long time. I am an E4All alumni. I went through the program in 2016, and kind of like Shona said, I probably won't be in business if I haven't gone through the, through the process. So my social media main platforms are Facebook and Instagram, because I have a lot of photos. So that's a way to, grab people's attention. I don't do a lot of videos. I do some videos when I have sessions. So I haven't tried TikTok yet, but my main platform is Facebook. I do have a Facebook group where I can retain clients, post promotions and stuff like that. So that's a way to keep people coming back and update to what I do. And like Deborah said, every time I have a promotion, like a session like Sienta Experience, very kind of sessions, I post on Facebook or Instagram, and if people, come in and I get all my spots booked, which is great. So.
Fantastic. We want to hear more about that.
All right.
Charlie Nadler, my neighbor here in the Berkshires, tell us about Laugh Dealers and how you have made social media work.
Sure. Thanks, Deborah. It's nice to meet everybody. It's great to be here. I'm excited to learn from you all. So I'm based in North Adams, Massachusetts. I'm also a proud graduate of the E4All Accelerator before E4Ever. So anything that starts with E4, I'm a fan of, at least as long as it's related to what Deborah and her colleagues are doing. We started our company Laugh Dealers in 2018, and we've pivoted a little bit during the pandemic, but we produce comedy shows for organizations and individuals, and we also create custom funny content. So, scripts for award shows or consulting, teaching CEOs to be funnier, etc. It's super rewarding. We obviously use a ton of social media platforms to support those business verticals, but also just to create engaging content to build our brand and reach a variety of audiences. We are pretty much on every platform, with the exception of Snapchat, but pretty much everything else we are cross-pollinating our content with. And then in the last year, I've also started producing comedy shows locally in the Berkshires, and I drive most of my engagement with Facebook, primarily through events and community groups for that work. And I think that covers it for now, but I'll be back.
Yes, you will. So I'm going to hand the baton over to my colleague, Andrea, to lead the Q&A. And there are some questions already coming in the chat, which I assume you're monitoring as well.
So you each answered some of the questions I had planned to ask you. So I won't be so rigid to ask you to repeat yourselves, but let me just start with this, and I'll ask the question and then give each of you a minute to answer it. I think everybody would like to know, how long have you been using social media? And when you started, what did you have in mind as the desired outcome? Let's start with you, Jillian.
I was just sharing my process. I started on Instagram in 2014, and I was just sharing photos because that was the way you did it back then, of my process. And I found that my followers were just my friends and fellow artists, kind of learning from each other, keeping up as you would on, say, Facebook with your friends. At some point, I would say probably in the last 2 years, I started to get more intentional with it, and started mapping out a plan to post more regularly. And as the media kind of shifted to video, I started TikTok, and that's when I realized the power of reaching eyeballs that aren't your peers. So that was more strangers than had ever seen my work before, and that's kind of addicting. So it continued. I continued to work on my content creation, the regularity of my posts, and the sales came after that. I'm not sure if that was too much, but
No, that's good. We'll just, this should be free flowing. The ideas should just come.
Right.
Shauna, that's a good segue to you, since you said you love TikTok. So why don't you tell us, how long you've been at this and what did you think you were gonna get out of it, when you started?
So initially, I started on Facebook. I always tell my clients that Facebook is like my family, my friends. So that was easy for me. But I had to do something different, which was going into Instagram. And like Juliana just said, as far as the power of social media, I didn't realize the power of it until those sales start coming in. It's like, okay, this is it. So I have to do everything that I can. And I just learned how to master knowing who my audience is, what attracts them and things like that to get them to buy. And when I seen my sales triple, like in a few months, I'm like, this is it. And social media is where it's at. And then they pulled out TikTok, and I was scared of TikTok for a minute, but TikTok, I feel like allows me to be more me, like where they can see more like the vulnerable me, opposed to Instagram being a little bit more structured, which is probably why I stay away from it, because I'm simple and I like to dance. But I've also found that me being more relatable, especially now in these last couple of years, people love people. They see that through the videos. I don't do a lot of like sales, hard sales. I kind of get them to want to buy what I have, especially when I'm doing stuff for the store. I might do a dance and I always get somebody, hey, where's that purse from? Where is that from? And they just automatically go to the link and buy. So it's like, it's kind of, I don't want to say it's like a no-brainer, but it's like, go where your people at and be comfortable when you're doing, and the sales will come.
Okay. Luciana, how about you? How long have you been at this and what did you hope to get out of it?
I think I created a page probably 10 years ago. I graduated from my personal page to a business page, but I still use my personal as a business. So I don't have like tons of followers, but most people that are on my platform, it is people around where I am, which for me is great because I do serve around this area, and I do want people that are local at least, because for me it would not help if someone's across the country. So I have participated in a lot of events in this area, community, fall festivals, things like that, which brought me a lot of more people from here. So yeah, pretty much it.
Okay. And Charlie?
Yeah, so as a individual comedian, I've used social media for a really long time, really starting with AOL Instant Messenger, away messages in high school. But as a business person, we have always dabbled in it, but I would say in the last couple of years, we really have leaned into it more, especially with what my colleagues on the call have alluded to, with short form video really having its moment and impact in terms of marketing. So, with the rise of TikTok, but then all the copycats with Instagram Reels and YouTube Reels, and everyone is going that direction. It just became more apparent that that's a great way to just build organic awareness. And also coupled with, we did some paid advertisements in the past, but those really have a pretty low return on investment a lot of times, because people don't want to feel like they're being marketed to. They want to feel like they're having more of an experience. And then also there's just more opportunities with the brand partnerships that have been discussed and other ways you can monetize that content. So it's just sort of been a natural progression that we were mostly a word of mouth kind of referral company in the beginning. But now we see the opportunity for a larger market share of just being sort of a wider entertainment company too.
So that's a good point, Charlie. Do any of you use paid advertising on any of the platforms? And if you do, which platforms and what kind of advertising are you doing? Luciana?
I've tried it. I didn't see a good return, like he said. So I kind of do things my way. It's easier for me to be more organic, like I said, getting those people who are more organic that are going to come and follow, opposed to putting out. I think the most that I put out one time was like $500, and the return just wasn't there. And then being a small business and needing that return to come back. So I find other strategies to use outside of paid ads.
I would follow that too. I would agree with what Shauna said with our approach in terms of, sometimes we'll get like a credit on Facebook to post something or whatever, and we'll use that. But for the most part, if you create an event and share it to a bunch of Facebook groups in the community and people mark that they're interested in it, then their friends see that they're interested in it. I mean, the whole reason why you buy paid ads is to get eyeballs on things. And what these platforms allow you to do most of the time is to get those impressions organically if you have compelling content.
Mhm. Yes.
Luciana, I saw you shaking your head. Do you use paid advertising? What
I
do you-
do. Usually I do for specific events, like holidays or Easter, or when I have something running, and the ads does bring me people that I didn't know I was here,
Mhm.
say. So it's really helpful.
Okay, and with you, obviously, and you said this before, because your business is really imagery, you have images, and so you're actually showing your product. That's what's going on, right?
Yes, exactly. But the image does make a difference on how the ad does, if it does well or not. So, but yes, the image is what grabs people more than the words they usually use.
So specifically, what have you learned? Like what works?
Usually I test on my page and I see how the response that if people like or not, or make comments, and then I get the best images and try to make an ad. So that way I kind of know that is a grabber, like people will see and like it.
Jillian, you also have a product. So how does that work for you?
I would mirror what Shauna said about not going for the hard sell. Like, you make a video that's interesting to the people who are attracted to your work, and they will naturally go follow the link if they're interested in the products that you're showing. I do kind of a mix of a show and tell and process-based videos. But I also find that becoming the face of my business is important because people want to relate to people. So I found as I was posting that my content would get more attention if I was in the frame, like if they could connect to a person. So that's been my strategy, is just trying to create videos using some sort of formula to get people's attention, hold on to it, entertain them, and then cross my fingers.
Andrea, this actually relates to a question that came in the chat, which I think is a good one. What if somebody hates themselves on video? Like, how do you get over that?
You just do.
Practice makes perfect. I hate it. Like, if you were to go on my TikTok, you would think that I did this all the time. There was a time that I didn't like being in front of the camera. The more that you do it, the more you get comfortable in doing it. But there are ways that you can also do it and be relatable without actually showing your face. We build our clients up to the point where they can show their face, but you can still do video. You can still post with having your video going and just showing your hands or just showing certain things and still being interactive, and then slowly build up to that. But from my experience, it has been the more that you show you, the more relatable that you are, the further that reach goes, and the more people, are willing to log in and sell. I'm sorry, not sell, and buy.
So do any of you have paid help with your social media to either develop content, do the posting, give you suggestions? Anybody use someone that they contract with?
Yeah, I do.
Shauna, how does that work for you?
So I have a photographer that I use. I have a social media girl that posts for me because I don't like posting. I don't like scheduling. So that makes it easier. The things that I don't like doing, I usually delegate. But we have a content calendar. They know what's going on. We kind of schedule out. We normally do about 6 months where we meet every month. I get my photos, get as many photos as we possibly can, get as many videos as we possibly can. And then we plug them into the content calendar, and then she goes in and posts. The issue that I'm having is I'm having a good time on TikTok and I just have a whole bunch of content in my phone now. So that kind of messes up the strategy sometimes, but it's worked. I think that having help, especially if you are not strong in that area, can definitely make a difference.
Does anyone else have help?
So I started by hiring a marketing consultant, and while that didn't ultimately work out long term, they kind of got my systems in place to be able to, like, I got on Later, which is the app that I use to schedule my posts. I got on TikTok, and then I started kind of running with it. But I would say that the help that I have is in the studio, in the making, like more help in my business so that I can be this social media person, because this is definitely the majority of what I do now. And the work I do in the studio is / making content. So
I can relate.
Charlie or Luciana, either of you have assistants?
We don't. I mean, hopefully in the future we might be able to get some bandwidth extension with that. I mean, I think there's a lot of great tools that have been really helpful that are free or very low cost. That you know, the scheduling tools that have been mentioned are all great. Hootsuite's another one that's good, but also things like Canva for creating really great thumbnails, or templates for videos. I just got Canva Pro, which I think is really worth like the $120 a year or whatever. So it really just makes it feel like you hired your own graphic designer to do a lot of the work. So a lot of it is pretty automated. We also, Adobe Premiere has a new beta that does captioning for you with AI. So if you know, the short form for accessibility reasons and a variety of reasons, really good to have captions on all your short form videos. So that does it automatically. So there's other companies that are coming out that'll even make them into Reels for you. We haven't explored that yet, but there's a lot of great technology out there that sort of replaces the need to necessarily hire people. That said, I would love to not do it if I had the luxury, but for now it doesn't really seem worth it.
It seems like, you know, one of the things that people ask about how to do it is, how do you come up with the content? I mean, is it a struggle to always be creating new content? How do you do that?
I would say yes and no. Like in the beginning, you get very excited. Like once you get some attention, it becomes like, I mean, for me, I was constantly thinking about what can grab people's attention. As I go farther into it, my focus is kind of consistency. So I'm just talking about my business, or things like if I were at a show trying to sell work, just talking about the characters of the work or how I make it, and it just naturally turns into a bunch of content. So for me, I turn on a camera, like I have camera day, and I go into my studio and I'm gonna surround myself with things to talk about so I can pick things up and talk about them. And then I edit it later and turn it into content. And that'll give me like months of content. Sometimes I create with intention. If you know that there are questions people have about your business that you can answer, make a list of those questions. There are also tools like ChatGPT. I don't know if people are getting into that. You can use that to help you create prompts. There are also videos about how to create content. There's videos about how to use ChatGPT to help you to create content. So there's lots of, like, once you start going down the rabbit hole, you'll find that the algorithms are going to help you out and send you videos and tips and things like that.
So we have a lot of questions coming in about, Mike Miller, who's attending, said something really interesting, which is the ABC of business used to be always be closing. Now it's always be creating content. So that makes me think, you know, is this another full-time job? Have we created another job for ourselves here? Luciana, in your world, you know, if you're not actually photographing and editing and so on, do you have to become a social media expert to promote your business all the time?
I know, and you know, with all these new platforms now, it's kind of hard to keep it up. So I try to stay for the ones I use most. And yes, I think it is a full-time job. I have a hard time. I have to force myself to take the time and schedule, otherwise things may not happen. So for me, create content is not as hard because I can use, the images I take or behind the scenes, which I start to do more and more now. I think people like to see those kind of images.
So, Shauna, Charlie, Jillian, Luciana, are you all extroverts? Is that a necessary prerequisite for being good on social media and being a good promoter?
I don't
I
think
know.
I'm not, because I could absolutely stay in my living room and just sit on the couch and not do nothing, not talk to nobody at all. I am to go back to the getting content and being full-time. I'm actually getting content right now. Again, everything can be content. So I'm, again, being intentional with what it is and how you're showing up. So it can feel like a full-time job, but I think that if you're more intentional with doing it, like I said, I knew we were getting on this. I know this will be good behind the scenes. So I have one of my phones right here kind of getting me talking, and then I can repurpose that later. So I also have days where I do content days, but for the most part, I'm always videoing because I know that somebody can get something out of what it is that I'm doing. I think a lot of it is just kind of getting out of your own way and being intentional. I don't feel like you have to be, I mean, there's people that are on TikTok that don't say a word. They're just on there just doing nothing. I see somebody sleeping, so I'm like, and they like 1 million followers. And I'm like, interesting, not what I would do, but they're probably getting paid, because of the views and things like that. So I don't think so, but everybody else might think differently.
So you're saying that people like that, they've actually turned the whole idea of just being on and doing normal things into a business of its own.
Yeah, I think that, and to go back to when I mentioned about like knowing, like if you know who your audience is, that first of all, it makes it easier for you to attract them, because then like when you're talking about like your keywords and things like that, the topics that come up, they get people who are watching them, who enjoy watching people sleep. Like somebody like me who doesn't like to sleep, I don't watch, but those people who enjoy that, that's who their audience is. And I'm saying, and I think I screenshotted it because I sent it to my mom. I'm like, they got 1 million views. And if they're monetizing that, they're getting paid and they're literally doing nothing. And again, like thinking about the girl who takes the speaker and she's, doing this, you have to know who your audience is, attract them and run with it. I don't think it's as difficult as a lot of people, as we make it, because I did too. I just don't think it's that difficult, not anymore anyway.
Andrea, can I circle back to a question that came in pretty early, and it was on our list as well. People are using different platforms. Like Charlie uses Facebook because I know I follow him on Facebook. That's how I found out about his comedy shows. But Shauna, honestly, TikTok scares the heck out of me. It feels like something my daughter does and that I shouldn't do. How did you decide which platform or platforms to focus on? Because it's not dead obvious which ones are going to talk to your ideal clients and turn into sales. So I don't know if you want to try to answer that.
Yeah, you have to know where your people are at. My people are, I have a group that's on Facebook. I know when they usually only buy on Fridays. But for me to expand my reach and do what I was doing with Tyler Perry Studios, I had to get on Instagram. Again, like to me for TikTok, that's more of me being silly me. And there's people, I think somebody bought one of my bags and she was like in, I think, it was Colorado. And I was like, well, what made you buy? And she was like, I was following you on TikTok and you did a dance and I seen the bag in the back, clicked your link and seen it was your bag. So, and she likes fashion, you know what I mean? So it's like, again, no, you really have to know. And I drilled that in my client. You have to know if you can attract your clients the right way, you'll know where they're going to be at, know when they're going to be on, and go like knowing them like the back of your hand. You'll know where they're going to be at and how, like if they're going to be on Instagram. A lot of my older clients are not on Instagram. They're on Facebook. So I have to go over there and do something completely different. Whereas like my new clients, I'm getting a lot of new clients from TikTok is what I'll say. A lot of my reoccurring clients come from like the channels that I've already used and, already built that trust and stuff. But
well, it sounds like, Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I just want to see if anyone else wanted to answer about the how you picked your platform. Jillian?
For me, it's if you create content, you should put it everywhere. Like that's some work you've already done. So put it in all the places, and then you see how the audience on those different platforms behaves. So for me, I started on TikTok. That's where I like all of a sudden things were going viral, and I was like, this is insane. Everybody should be on TikTok because it's the algorithm is so attuned to your audience. Like they're not seeing it unless they're into it, and then they're more likely to click on and buy. But that has dried up a little bit, and then Instagram took off. And once I had an audience on Instagram, it's a captive audience because you're in their feed. Whereas TikTok is like you put something out and you have a shot to go viral, and if you don't, nobody sees it. So it's been really interesting to figure out the kind of content that will do well on the platforms. But I say if you've created something, put it everywhere.
So that's a really good point. That's a really good point, Jillian. You said Instagram and maybe Facebook too are the type of platforms where people are getting more impressions. So they're seeing you more often because once they follow you, you end up in their feed like you described.
Mhm.
And then would you agree? And then TikTok is more of a maybe, they see it once, maybe if they're in the right place at the right time or searching.
It's not about the right place at the right time. It's like the content has to be attractive. Like you have to immediately get someone's attention. The algorithm is a big secret, but it used to be that within the first few hours is when they're testing your content to see if people are going to react to it. And then if people are engaging with it, then they push it on to their bigger audiences. And that's how you get the millions and millions of views. But if you don't, you're stuck at like 200, 300 views, and there's no rhyme or reason. Meanwhile, that same video is getting 50,000 on Instagram. It's like interesting to figure out what's happening. And you can easily do that when you have the same content in both places and be like, what's happening here?
Charlie, is it for you? Is it mostly that you need to entertain?
Yeah, I think I'll just echo a lot of what folks have already said, which are all great points, which it's sort of like the definition of product market fit. It's what you have has to be super relatable to what your audience is looking for, whether they're trying to solve some sort of problem of what they're looking for, or it's just something they're super into. And TikTok's really good, like Shauna was saying, about creating those communities of, it's even like a noun, like bag talk or tennis talk. Like there's all these communities where people just see a ton of that content, will be served that content. But I think it's also just demographics too, just depending on, I think the reason I've had a lot of success with Facebook for the shows here is that my county is an older county and it's a platform that people are most comfortable with. Whereas if I was on a college campus, it would be TikTok or something I've never even heard of before would be the one that I should be using. So I think it really, but to Jill's good point about just putting it everywhere, you don't really get dinged for putting it on all the platforms. Like she said, you don't see it at worst. And
that
also
question just came in, actually. Katie wanted to know, is there a downside to that? You say there's not.
I don't think so. Pretty much all the best practices you read about are that you want to be posting as much as possible and have it be high quality content. So if you feel good, I think the downside is if for whatever reason the content isn't resonating with anybody and it's very low quality, the video's bad, the sound quality is bad, it's offensive. A million reasons that people could not want to watch your video. That would be the only downside. But if you feel like you're putting all of your passion and effort into these things, I don't really see it. I think the big problem, just to answer the extrovert question real quick, I think that the biggest thing is just learning how to be like super engaging to a blank camera. You don't see these hundreds of thousands of followers, so that's actually a gift, versus comedy where you have to get used to like all these hundreds or thousands of people in front of you judging you in real time. But I think it's mostly just the trolls. It's the worst stuff anyone's ever said to me is in a YouTube comment or a TikTok comment on, especially when stuff is popular. So it's just that thick skin of not caring what one person in the middle
Well,
of
that's a
everything.
perfect segue to this next question, which is, well, how do you respond to your followers? Do you have to actively be commenting and responding and engaging? And how much time does that take? Shauna, you're shaking your head. I'll ask you to respond to that.
So I do want to say that I get the posting on every platform, but for people who don't want to post at all, I think that a downside to that is that will be overwhelming for them to have to go in and post on every platform. But if once you get to it and you have that flow going, I absolutely agree. But I think that that's a downside for it. But as far as engaging, that's one of those things that I feel like, again, has to be organic and natural. I don't allow I have 2 assistants, I don't allow them to go in and comment. Like, I like to be able to respond in my tone and my voice. And that actually makes it, I feel like, even more fun, because they're like, oh, she actually responded. I get a lot of that on Instagram and TikTok, like, she actually responded to me. So then they come back, and I also make sure that I comment. I usually comment the next day. I don't know if anybody else does this, or whenever I post a video and people are commenting on that, I'll wait until I post the next video for me to go back in and engage, which has also helped with my reach and people to be able to go back in and, and like that next post or something like that. So, but I'd like to go in, and that's like my nighttime thing, scrolling and responding.
Okay. Anyone
Yeah,
else?
it doesn't feel like a longer day. Like, the comments just happen when they happen. So it's not like, oh, one more thing I have to do it. And
Mhm.
usually you want to engage because it's people who love your work and
Right.
want to make them feel like they're a part of your world.
I have a question. How do y'all deal with negative? Because I've gotten some negative, what's the name said, as far as when
Trolls.
once you get something that goes viral or is popular and you get those negative comments, we get a lot of people love, like, me and my husband when we do content together, and we actually get a lot of negative feedback from that. And I didn't know how to respond to that for a long time. So I want to ask them, how do you respond to that? Because I'll be like, let me go back. I'm a business, I'm a professional, so I can't say this, and you don't want to tarnish anything. How do you deal with that?
For me, I mean, it's only when you've gone viral and you've done something really great that the negative comments come in.
Right.
So, like, knowing that you're doing something right. But for me, same thing, like, it hurt a lot initially. It was really hard to get used to. But at some point that thick skin did come when you understand, like, oh, this is a child. They're not like hurting my brand by saying something because they don't know. Like, I got a lot of pushback about my pricing. I had something that I was essentially giving it away, like $35 for like art turned into something else. And they were like, I wouldn't spend this much. Like, it was just, but it really got to me.
Right.
And I've now learned just like,
You skip past them. You just skip past them.
Yeah. I mean, I
Okay.
did respond to some, and some but that's not good for you.
Yeah, I
You don't wanna
stopped
start a fight with
responding.
somebody
Yeah.
online.
So it sounds
Okay.
like ignore it is just the
Yeah.
But block and
advice that you're
delete.
giving.
Get them out of there. They don't need to see your
Block
content
them?
ever again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did some blocking. I ignore it, but like she said, it absolutely does hurt. So you do have to have that thick skin, because, again, like, what people don't realize is that you are a human being, regardless of what is being posted out there. And we've gone viral a few times, and it's like, okay, here come this person is talking about, like, and especially too when it's something personal, like your marriage, so it's like, all right, don't want to respond personally, because people are always watching. That's the thing with social media, nothing goes away and people are always watching, and there's a perception there for you and the way that you post on social media, and respond.
I found that responding in video form in a professional way is actually, like, really engaging. People really like that, because then you get people fighting for you. like, oh my God, I can't believe they said that. And, you know, so those videos have always done really well for me. So I would say if you can use that negativity to your advantage, turn it into something positive, it's like, we're always looking for more content ideas, and they're just handing it to you.
Yeah,
Apparently something tells me you're a pro at that.
Yeah, I find out where they live and then I show up at their house at dinner time. It's a full-time job, but it's worth it. Yeah, no, I think you handle it the same way you handle threats online. You just ignore it. You know, block, delete, or you just don't engage. But in general, engagement is great, and it also is supposed to be really great for the algorithm. So you should respond when you can, when it's positive.
So I've got two important questions because inquiring minds want to know. First of all, how do you track? How do you track? And do you have return on investment? And how do you know when you do? How do you, what methods do you use to track?
I use Trello. We have a board and we know how much content, how much time goes in. We also include the budget of my photographer and who I pay. And that kind of helps us like know like how much we spent out and how much we actually get back in. We also have one of my assistants who goes in and they see like so like when we were selling the bags, where all of that was coming from. So our website analytics and all that stuff was able to help with that. So we track that and we do it monthly. We used to do it quarterly, but that didn't, if we had to do it monthly in order for us to know like if we needed to redo something over or, you know, change some strategies up.
Anyone else use quantitative?
I'm a little more
methods?
intuitive. Like I know when a video is going viral, like the sales come in and I know what I did in that video and I just take that lesson and apply it to future videos. If it's controllable, because sometimes it's not. And I have my website analytics that tell me that people are coming from my Linktree, but because I'm using Linktree, it doesn't always tell me that it's Instagram or TikTok, but it's just very clear to me in, you know, as I'm creating what's doing it.
So Jillian, I'm sure some people in the audience are very, very new at this and probably don't even know what Linktree is. Can you just define it for us quickly?
Yeah, it's you go to linktree.com. It's like you create a little page that you can put a bunch of links on. So you create a little profile, and then if you have space for one link in your profile of whatever platform you have, you put that one so that you can direct people to all the places that you want. There are lots of different versions of this. If you use some sort of a scheduling app, they may have their own that you can create. So, but that one's free and perfectly functional for me. So.
And it's just a way, it's an analytical tool. Is that it?
It's just a place for you to put all your links in. Like it's like a location, one home location for people to go to then branch off and go wherever you tell them to go.
Okay.
Andrea, I'd like to circle back to Shauna intimating at the beginning that she learned from her mistakes. I wonder if each of the panelists can tell us at least one mistake we can all learn from, like, don't do this because I did this and it didn't work, or it didn't go anywhere, or I spread myself too thin, or whatever it is.
Me, I would say if I would have known, and you'll hear me talk a lot about target audience, if I would have known when I first started in 2005 exactly who my audience was, I think I wouldn't have wasted as much money as I did on inventory, marketing, things like that, because that ended up being like trial and error. Whereas now I know, so it makes shopping a lot easier. It makes my marketing a lot easier. If I was to do an ad, it makes that a lot easier. Even when it comes to like, with everything, when I think about what I initially named my store, my first store name was Exotic Hush. Everybody thought it was like some sex store, right? And I always talk about like how at the time I wasn't married, you know, so there were some things that had changed over that, but I wish that I had known what that was going to bring to it. So then, you know, I ended up having to redo a lot of work later on when I switched over to the Shauna Solomon collection, because everything was different. You know, like now I know who my audience is. They're not these young girls with biker shorts and, you know, all of that stuff. And it allowed me doing that allowed me just to, it's easier if you know, I feel like knowing your
So
target
that's
audience
really
is so much
kind of
easier.
a business fundamental. It's not even a social media lesson. It's like know who
Mhm.
you're talking to and who you're selling to. That
Yep.
and then the rest of it
The
follows.
more you know them like the back of your hand, the easier it will be to attract them.
That's great. Who has a social media learning lesson they'd like to share? Jillian, you got one?
I'd say just maybe don't be so precious about what you're putting out there. Like, you got to jump in, you have to start, you're going to get better at it. Maybe your first posts are embarrassing, but just like jump in, because every post is an opportunity to grab those views and those people. So the faster you start to learn those lessons, the better.
Luciana, you also had a comment, I think.
Yes, I guess a lesson was to show what you want to sell, right? Because for me, like I have different styles or different kind of niches of photography, and for the lack of having enough images to post, you post something that you don't want to do, and then you get more of that. And you get people to
Good point.
go and one of that, and it's like, oh, I don't want to do that specific thing. So that was a lesson learned, I would say.
And Charlie?
Yeah, I'd say mine's a little broad, and then there's also one I'm terrified of making that we haven't yet, thankfully, but it happens to a lot of people. So one, I think, is just the mistakes that there's so much information out there that you shouldn't make, like what we were talking about before about, you know, just really knowing like what times of day are best to post. You know, don't post on a weekend when people are traveling or out and about and might get more buried depending on your target audience. You know, having bad titles, bad thumbnails, making it too long, like all the things that there's just a ton of like great YouTube videos out there how to make great content, that if you do those things, it sets you up for success. So I think, you know, we've made a lot of those mistakes while we've been learning how to make better content, of just how to really you know, keep people's attention. And then the mistake that I am afraid of gets to the scheduling content thing is, you know, there's those horror stories about you have stuff scheduled and then some awful thing happens in the world or in the country, and then at the same time this national tragedy is going on, you're, you know, posting a cat meme with something like very insensitive or something like that. So I think like the scheduling thing is great, it saves a lot of time, but you also want to make sure that you can be nimble and not be off the grid too long if you need to make those kind of adjustments. So and that's a faux pas that people just get destroyed for if it happens to them.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So, well, Deborah has reminded us that we're about time winding down on our time. So I don't see any new questions coming
Yeah,
in from the audience.
Angela had one that came in from the live cast about hashtags.
Oh, okay.
Do you use them? How do you use them? How do you know which ones to use? Hashtags. That's the subject.
Research, knowing your audience. Y'all gonna hear me say that a lot. When it comes to hashtags, I literally take the time to search TikTok, Instagram, see what my competitors are using, especially the ones that have the higher numbers, and see which ones they're using in addition to the one that I'm using. And I just do the research. I have a doc that has probably 30 different variations of hashtags to use. But I know that I always make sure that I use like a brand specific one, and one that's relatable to the video. But some people also do like to use the one that is trending. But I always feel like when I do one that's trending, that can be like a hit or miss, because you might get the wrong audience with that one. So I try not to utilize those. I just do my research on the ones that my audience are most likely to click on or search.
Yeah, I'll agree with all of that. It really is. You just don't want to be a bait and switch. You don't want to have the hashtag be like summer vacations and then suddenly you're selling them shoes or something. So as long as it fits what they're interested in, that's really the key as well.
I
use a
think
lot of
it's more about getting the people that you want to see it that is also relevant to what you do, than it is about like perfectly explaining what the video is. You're throwing out a wide net and hoping it's like a search engine, right? Like if somebody searches something and it's, you want to be in that category, then use that hashtag.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of sort of general rules of thumb for marketing that definitely apply to social media, but would any of you like to comment on, maybe the one thing about social media that's different from any kind of traditional marketing that you would do?
You don't have to be polished. You don't have to look professional. It's about connecting to you as a person. Like I had this conversation with my sister recently. She comes from a background where like she was trying to be an actor and putting out like, I am a professional actor is the thing. And now you can show all your flaws, and that makes it more engaging, more interesting. So yeah,
Authenticity.
yes,
Relatable.
Absolutely.
yeah.
And maybe it's more attractive to the audiences to see that you're a fallible, vulnerable person, even though, you're trying to sell a product or a service, that you're just a human being, just like they are.
Mhm.
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 That makes sense.
Mhm.
But you also don't have to share everything if you don't want to. Like, don't feel like it's all or nothing. You can still protect your vulnerability if you want.
Good point.
Absolutely.
How are we doing on time, Deborah?
I think we are ready for our participants to say, do you have one piece of advice that you would give someone who has been social media phobic to date about using it for their business? Is it hire someone? Is it just go ahead and do it? Is it pick one channel? What advice would you give? Jillian, I'm afraid you're gonna have to go first again.
I think, okay, so if you're just getting started, do your best to come up with viral ideas, like things that you think will be funny, and it cannot even be related to your business entirely. Like it doesn't have to explain everything about your business, but get out some intentional videos you want to make, and like make it short, make it quick, make it clean, make it well lit, well framed, and then see what happens and see what lessons you can learn from having put those out there. If you're not ready to commit to like every day.
Okay, Shauna, what's your advice?
If you don't like to do it, to hire. I'm a heavy believer that if you don't like to do it, you're not going to do it, and that is not good when it comes to business success. A lot of times, most times, if it's something that you don't want to do, you won't do it. If you can't hire somebody, maybe get like some type of mentor or like somebody else who has that strength to be able to help you do it. Take classes. He mentioned as far as like there being all those different classes on YouTube and stuff like that. Like definitely learn things that you can do yourself before if you can't afford to pay somebody, where you won't have to, or you kind of get rid of that phobia. Start small. I'm trying to think. I want to say just do it, but I also know that when we say just do it, I have literally told a client to just do it, and she was in Miami having a good time, and it backfired. So just kind of be aware of what it is that you are going to be out there doing, and yeah, just do it. Like social media can expand your reach, especially when it comes with being a small business and a small local business. We all in it to make money. And I feel like if we kind of stay in like certain arenas, that it can limit you to a point. And most people who want to do certain things on social, they want to grow. So the only way you're going to grow is to put yourself out there. So at some point you're going to have to conquer that fear. And again, like I laugh, but I hate it. Like if you 5-6 years ago, if you seen any of my photos, you'd be like, this is not the same girl to be dancing all over her house now. You'll get used to it. Just get started somehow, because I promise it will help you expand your business a lot. A lot.
Great advice. Luciana, what's your advice for a social media phobic business owner?
Gosh, yes. I would say pick one platform and try to get comfortable with that first before jumping to others. I have a friend, she's a photographer too, and I'm gonna get her advice about video instead of recording, because I have done record like 300 videos. It's like, oh no, this is not good. Let's do it again. Let's do it again. Start doing live videos because you have no way to go and edit it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I guess that's a way to, you can get out there, and start.
Charlie?
I would encourage you to fail a lot and keep failing. I think that's the way to always succeed. You never hear about people that are just successful right out the gate, even if it seems like that. It's the reason I can do stand up for long periods of time, because I was awful for years, So I think the research on YouTube is free. Making stuff on your phone is basically, close to free, and these platforms are free. So just have fun, and you'll slowly learn what works, and you'll see by the view count. That's your tracking right there, and just keep experimenting, and then you'll just start replicating the stuff that works.
what's the rule of thumb in show business? You're an overnight success after 20 years.
Exactly.
Well, and I think that one of the two of the participants talked about maybe having somebody help you come up with the strategy and the plan. And if you can turn it into bite-sized pieces, then maybe it doesn't feel so daunting or so, undoable. And then you just get started and do it. And one of the beauties of Entrepreneurs Forever groups, which all of these folks, again, are members of, you can run this by your group and say, what do you guys think of this? Or how is that working? And get some honest feedback to help you launch it. And we are now out of time. We're over by a minute. I want to thank my co-host, Andrea. I want to thank Jillian, Shauna, Luciana, Charlie, and the 26 of you who are at home, as well as anyone who's watching this as a recorded video. We so appreciate you and sharing your wisdom about how social media has worked for you. We hope we see you at some of our future learning programs. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Fun.
Bye.
Bye-bye.